for Kids. Lucky Chops has been unleashing high-energy, brassy funk on the world since forming in New York City in 2006. The intensity of the band's energy is fueled by their desire to share the healing and inspirational power of music with others. That power has resonated with audiences around the globe, giving the band hundreds of millions of views on their online videos and leading to live performances in more than 25 countries. Their YouTube channel has almost 500,000 subscribers. Lucky Chops maintains a busy schedule touring across several continents. The band members are also committed to music education, regularly performing clinics and educational outreaches to help train and inspire the next generation of musicians. We have very special guests with us today on the Music Podcast for Kids. Lucky Chops, thanks for being on the show.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's start out by having you guys introduce yourselves and what instrument you play in Lucky Chops, and maybe some of the other instruments that aren't with us today.
Sure. My name is Josh Holcomb. I play trombone in the Lucky Chops, and that's me.
And my name is Dara Baruzzi. I play tenor saxophone primarily, but as the years have gone on, I've added basically any instrument I could to the mix, but mainly bass clarinet and clarinet, occasionally some flute. And we also have another saxophone player, Adrian Condis, who is on Barry sax, trumpet player Joshua Gowell, filling out the frontline horn section. He's actually a doctor, Reginald Chapman, doctor of low brass jazz performance.
Nice.
He's the tuba player. He technically plays something called a contrabass bugle. So it's the shoulder marching tuba that you see in marching bands. And Patrick Simard on drums.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Cool. So since we are a music podcast for kids, we always like to ask our special guest how they got started with music. Did you play music as kids? Did you take private lessons? Things like that.
Yeah, I think pretty much all of us did. But Dara, what was your story?
Yeah, so my parents made me take piano lessons when I was little, and I was like, I don't want to take piano lessons. And I remember I have like some really distinct memories of like some neighbors or just like other adults, being around, being like, you should really appreciate that your parents are making you take piano lessons, because I wish my parents made me keep taking lessons. And little did I know how important that was going to be. So that was when I was 5 that I started with that. And I have, when I actually look back on it, it was really rewarding, and I had a lot of fun doing it. But, you still drag your feet on like practicing and going to lessons just because it's like something you have to do. And as a kid, you don't want to do things that you have to do.
That's right. Exactly.
So that was my start. And then when I was 9 in elementary school, we had a concert band. We were lucky that, there's still music programs in public schools, which unfortunately there's less and less of these days. And my uncle had given me a clarinet when I was 5. So I had actually put down that I wanted to play trombone. Josh, I don't know if I told you when we had to pick instruments, but my mom was like, you have a clarinet. Why don't you play the clarinet that we have? And so I ended up doing that, and then that was my path after that.
Awesome. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I grew up in a musical family, and my mom was a elementary school, public school music teacher here in New York City in Queens. And similar story to Darrow, and I'm sure countless people across the world of having parents force them to play piano at a young age, and also sharing in the misery at the time and then the regret down the line that I didn't take it more seriously at the time. But super grateful for that, and very grateful to have encouraging parents who supported me in pursuing a musical career. And the older I got, the more I realized that was a very lucky break that many people don't have. And so I was very, very grateful for that past.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's
Well, speaking of Lucky, got to ask about the band name. It's so unique. It kind of reminds me of like a wacky new breakfast cereal or something like that. Where in the world did you guys come up with Lucky Chops?
Wow, that's such a good description of our sound. Really, I never heard it framed like that before. It was just, I mean, there's no real story behind the name. It was just word association and free word association. At the time, when we were in high school, we came up with the name. And we, you know, because it's loosely based off of like, we were all in kind of jazz band together at our school. Right. And chops is a jazz kind of slang for your lips. Or like in other kinds of music, it's like your ability on your instrument.
Right. Yeah.
But actually, so for us, as like a, you know, brass band is, I guess, would be like our style or genre. It's so taxing on the lips, like as a brass player.
Sure.
So it is like you need lucky chops to even have a shot of making it through a concert every night.
Yeah, I feel like we've grown with the name.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
That's cool.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah. So yeah, your sound is described as like high energy brass funk. We talk about different styles of music on our podcast, as well as various families of instruments. Can you unpack your style and maybe where it came from and some of the unique characteristics of it?
It's interesting because the style is so hard to name. So like the term brass funk is probably only captures like a small segment of what we do.
Yeah.
But I think if you think about funk as more of like an energy and connected to like a universal, you know, groove kind of dance phenomenon that transcends all different styles and types of music and cultures, that's really where we're coming from with that. So think of it like a global kind of funk approach, but meets brass, which is also this interesting global phenomenon. And you know, we started out like imitating New Orleans brass bands and other bands in that style, like Rebirth and Youngblood. This was when we were in high school, and you know, kept kind of doing that for like a few years. And we would play like some of the songs that like, you know, early jazz students learn, like you know, Cantaloupe Island and stuff like that as well. And then eventually started incorporating like more original music and also different styles from around the world. We got some Turkish and Jamaican music in there, and that was kind of the first thing that we did outside of our, you know, kind of more New Orleans repertoire. And yeah, now we're just constantly exploring, you know, different styles of music from different parts of the world that a lot of it has come to us through our exploration of different brass traditions. It's super interesting to find that there's like a brass tradition in every like region of every country that we've toured in, you know, for example. And we've gotten to meet so many of these people. And, you know, through the internet, you know, back when we were in high school, that was like a newer thing to be able to, you know, search on blogs and like download torrents of, you know, music from, you know, across the world. And now it's like so accessible just through like streaming platforms and YouTube and everything like that. So, you know, but back then we were still like trying to, you know, discover and uncover all these different things, different sounds. And, you know, inevitably that's going to make its way into the music that we play. And yeah, I guess at some point it's more intentional. It's like, let's write a song with this type of groove that comes from like this style of music that we've been checking out. Other times it's just kind of like, you know, you take a solo in this song and then you happen to be listening to like a certain style, like Balkan stuff, and like Balkan brass band is like an amazing tradition. Wow. And then that kind of like the inflection of that music makes its way into like how you improvise a solo, but it might be in a song that's like based in New Orleans music. So, you know, it's kind of like an organic thing where like what we check out as individuals, what we check out as a band kind of makes its way in. And, you know, it's all about exploring and growing, I think, especially in this day and age when there's so much quick communication and also so much need for connection and, you know, understanding.
Sounds like a musical dialogue with musical conversation with different dialects. Kind of coming at the conversation from a different place. That's awesome. Well, your sound, your energy is so contagious. I was watching the one video from New York City in the subway, and the funk melody that you guys did, it was amazing. So I showed it to my wife, and she was like, holy moly, they're not just like jumping around, they're playing wind instruments and jumping around. I was like, holy moly. So how does that energy impact it's got to impact your music and your audiences. I was just excited just watching you guys on the screen. How does that impact your audiences as you go from place to place?
Yeah, I think for us, it's that kind of crazy energy is coming from a place of wanting to just kind of show audiences who may not have been exposed to these instruments that we play before, or maybe have not been exposed to instrumental music, period, before. And we kind of want to show them the power of these instruments, the power of instrumental music, jazz music, what have you. And by kind of just going full on crazy mode, right, it leaves an impact on audiences. And to me, it's really important that they start to associate these instruments with this like kind of amazing capability or amazing power. And for me, it's coming from a very like joyful place as well of connectivity and unification. So there's a method to the madness, so to speak, I guess.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it is a lot of fun to watch. And I imagine even seeing it live would, right now we're not able to do as much live stuff, but to see it live, man, must be really cool. So you guys released a new album in 2019. Tell us a little bit about that album, maybe the process you use to choose the final cuts for the album.
Yeah, this was actually a very new process for us, and it was a lot of fun. I think for all of us, it kind of opened up a whole new pathway in how we make music and how we understand the process that we can use even as people coming from like a live instrumental based kind of performance based way of creating music. In the past, what we had done is, even for recordings, like we would just kind of play together in the studio and release that, or try to create something either in like separately that was still meant to sound like, how it would play with all of us playing together. But this album was the first time we really like spent, days and weeks and hours working on each track and thinking like, okay, well, what can I do to add like more energy and vibe to this one saxophone melody? So, we would like record several parts and kind of like fade them in and out at different points or like blend them in different ways. Things that are, I guess more typically done with like rock music or, pop music, like treating our horns as like pop vocals, for example. Right. So like, all of the production and detail that goes into that. Thinking about the same kind of thing with our horns, and also for like, drum sounds and, adding like different layers of percussion and, just kind of like ambient textures that can fill out the space. Things that really make something sound like an album in the sense of, what that means in this day and age, as opposed to like a live recording, I guess. And I feel like that was something I sort of learned more about, like what that distinction is, and also what it means for us, since we're people who come from, live oriented background. Right. So yeah, it's a totally different thing from what we had done before.
Yeah, that's cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So are those things, I was just thinking about, are you able to use the extras that you use in the studio? Does that translate to your live shows then, where you have some backing tracks that kind of flow, between songs, or you just keep it live, and that's that?
Yeah, we just keep it live.
Now that you said that, that's a good idea.
We've dabbled. Yeah, we've talked about like, how could we do this? I guess, there's some things that we've done, like putting effects pedals on our horns, stuff like that.
Cool, yeah.
That adds to some of that energy. But it's interesting because and Josh, I'm sure you have a lot to say about this too. Like the sound of recorded brass instruments does not have the same power and spirit and energy as the sound of the instrument when you're there feeling the vibration in person. So in some ways, what we're doing with the album and with recordings in general is figuring out how to create an energy through a recorded medium that doesn't necessarily correspond to the energy that we have in the live medium, but it's like a different thing. Yeah, what's your experience with that, and how's that evolving for you, Josh?
Yeah, all of the above, and wait, both and. That's the thing. I think it's so fun to explore just like very raw live, that wonderful world, which is so often neglected these days.
Yeah.
We really try and bring that back, you know, and like show that there's something special about that can't be replicated in an artificial way, while also utilizing the infinite soundscapes and worlds that can be created through a traditional studio process. So for us, it's just fun to do it all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was impressed. I learned you guys, you're really dedicated to music education, where you go into schools and things like that throughout the year. We're both public school music teachers, and Bill teaches
Awesome.
private lessons too. I did years ago. And so we're so with you on the education aspect of things. So where did the emphasis on music education specifically come from? And how do you incorporate that through your journey across the globe? I mean, you guys, 25 or so countries. I mean, that's pretty amazing. How does the education part of it? How do you incorporate that as you make your travels?
Yeah, it's something that we've always felt super passionate about, but hadn't had a lot of time to dedicate to kind of our journey as educators, outside of just making videos and putting them out. To help inspire people, but to actually sit down and focus on curriculum, lessons, these kind of things. Our touring schedule didn't accommodate that type of education work.
Sure.
So now when COVID, you know, devastated the world, that was one little kind of like seed of good thing that came out of this for us, was having nothing but time to focus on education work.
Yeah, cool.
So I think Darrow and I and the other members of the band have kind of given most of our focus towards education work during this pandemic. And it's been really cool. Darrow, you want to talk about some of the stuff that we've been doing?
Yeah, totally. Well, we've been teaching lessons, you know, that we've sort of made available through our platform as a band. And it's been amazing to see, like, you know, to get emails from people like around the world who are interested. We're also doing a monthly sort of like, we call it Chops University situation, where we have like several group classes throughout the day. So that way, you know, maybe students who can't afford lessons or who like don't want to, you know, commit to that level of, you know, intense one-on-one work can just join for that for you know, lower cost. And we're also working on creating educational content that we're using Patreon as a hub for. So
great.
Basically, like, you know, so far we've put out a few different videos just through that platform, you know, so there's like a little bit of a paywall because we need that to sustain ourselves, but it's much more accessible. You know, so like, you know, talking about like the process of like making a different song, or Josh did an analysis of a solo that he took, you know, so because we get a lot of questions from kids. I mean, on top of this, you know, also like constantly responding to like DMs on Instagram, like, hey, how do you do this thing here? And I'm, you know, and I love to do that. I'd love to be available to young musicians. And, you know, sometimes there's a balance between like, okay, I got to like stop this for a second and like, take some time to breathe. But other times I'm like, yeah, this is, you know, this is why I want to do this, to have an impact on people, you know, and, you know, positive impact. So, you know, I think during this time, we've also been thinking about ways that we can integrate it more deeply into the work that we do, and, you know, try to build things. Obviously, it's still so unpredictable how things are going to look, even in a year from now. But, you know, ideally, we would like to be able to build a more sustainable educational kind of, you know, nonprofit-y foundation kind of thing that would allow for us to, you know, to build off of what we've witnessed, like the inspiration that we've seen for like young, you know, band kids in particular, that has also in turn inspired us to like, you know, keep going when, you know, when things are difficult, or, you know, just given us like, you know, also like the most exciting shows, like when it's all the band kids, like when it's an all ages show and all the band kids come out, like they're the ones who go like as in as we do, right? But it's just the parents that's not the same level of energy. So, so we want to find ways to integrate that in a more sustainable way. So that's kind of what we're building towards. And, hopefully there'll be another side of all this madness that we're going through where things like that can flourish. And so that's
And
how it's been.
I would guess you have a lot of public school band teachers and orchestra teachers that would really love to partner with you guys with initiatives like that. I think you'd have an awful lot of support.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
I hope so.
While we tour, we try, even though it's difficult to do a show and a clinic in one day, we try and go out and do some clinics in towns that we're in, cities that we're in, at local schools.
Yeah.
And that's been such an amazing experience to do over the past several years. So yeah, it would be, our goal is to like have a network of all these teachers, and we can provide curriculum. We can help provide some, repertoire arrangements. So we'll see. Hopefully now that this ball has started to roll during COVID,
Sure.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So I teach general music, but I also teach 4th and 5th grade band. So I'm at one school teaching all of them. And I mean, that would be awesome to have you guys, come to the school, or, that'd be great. And I know that the other teachers would be ecstatic, because one of the things we're a little worried about is, that kids are maybe not going to enroll in band this year because we're not really having the band all together playing together, right? So they're losing that thing that you have to get together for. We're trying to do what we can to do, synchronous lessons with kids online, kind of like how you guys are doing your group lessons. So, to get you guys to get into some schools, and I mean, that's only gonna help the arts and get kids excited to be like, yeah, let's join band, right? And so I just think it's great. I love what you guys are doing. So thank you for that.
And we're near.
Actually, I think we're trying to do a thing where we wanted to, during this school semester, kind of put out an all points bulletin, kind of mainly to educators, stating that we'll come in and do like a class. Like we'll have a Zoom thing with your class.
Oh, okay.
During So
okay.
That could be cool, actually. Thanks for reminding me.
That would be awesome. Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool.
And when things do get back to normal, hopefully, I saw you had a show in Philly near Philly that got postponed, but we're not too far from there, so it will be great to, if we ever get a chance to see you guys in person, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. Well, we want to thank you guys again for being with us and sharing your journey and your continued journey with music education and performing. And we just thank you so much for taking the time with us. Lucky Chops, you guys are awesome. And all the best to you guys.
Hey, and thank you for being educators, because without our amazing educators, we wouldn't be a band, and who knows what we'd be doing at this point. So shout out to you, keep up the good fight, and to all music educators around the world, you all are the best.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you all so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Thank you guys. See ya.